Anthony Joshua faced a standard 28-day suspension from boxing following his knockout loss to Daniel Dubois at Wembley, as he entered a difficult post-fight period. Meanwhile, Oscar de la Hoya and Eddie Hearn became involved in a heated war of words over Joshua's devastating defeat at the hands of Dubois.
But if I was doing one today, it's Friday today, right? So it's like, I don't know, Friday. It's like, hey, welcome to Friday. Because he does his silly voice, doesn't he? It goes a little.
This continues the Matchroom curse, meaning if you sign with Matchroom, you're either guaranteed to lose or get in.
Oscar de la Hoya, during one of his latest media appearances, commented on Anthony Joshua's recent loss to Daniel Dubois. He highlighted the significance of Joshua being knocked out in the 5th round. However, de la Hoya also pointed to a larger pattern, suggesting that Eddie Hearn had been struggling in his rivalry with Frank Warren.
Alright, let's start with last weekend's fight in the UK. Anthony Joshua was knocked out in the 5th round by Dubois. It was actually an amazing fight, an entertaining fight, and I like AJ. However, this was another huge L for Eddie Hearn, who is literally 0-11 to Frank Warren this year.
De la Hoya also pointed to a confrontation Hearn had with Devin Haney in the crowd at Wembley. He suggested that Hearn, despite having all the resources and opportunities available to him, had failed to make the most of Anthony Joshua's situation.
To make matters worse, Eddie Hearn faced off with his old buddy Devin Haney in the crowd at Wembley. Eddie, you can't build a fighter to save your life. Anthony Joshua had the world at his fingertips, and you found a way to fumble his.
Hearn responded to Oscar de la Hoya's remarks with a light-hearted but pointed rebuttal. He referred to de la Hoya as a strange person and suggested that his public persona did not reflect how he was truly feeling. Hearn also pointed out that many fighters had moved on from Golden Boy Promotions, which he believed showed the promotion's decline.
The weird guy, really, isn't he? But I think we all need weird in our life, you know. I don't like those people that pretend they're so happy, but actually they're burning inside. You know, like his silly voice that he puts on. He's lost all his fighters, and I think he's hurting. You know, Canelo's obviously gone. Jaime Munguiri pretends that he hasn't gone, but he's gone to top rank. Virgil Ortiz, you know, you saw his crowd against Bokacic. Ryan Garcia's out for a year. Golden Boy are done.
Eddie also mocked Oscar de la Hoya in his own customized response, ridiculing de la Hoya over the number of fighters he had lost from his promotional stables. Here we go. It was another fiery exchange in their ongoing rivalry.
Go. It's the segment of the week where I pretend I'm really happy, but I'm burning inside. Come on, AJ, he's the best build fighter of all time. But Golden Boy, who have you got left? Canelo's gone. He hates you. He sued you. Jaime Munguia, you pretend you represent him. You don't. He's gone to top rank. Virgil Ortiz sold a couple of thousand tickets and Ryan Garcia's banned. And now you're being sued again by Devin Haney. Have a great day.
Eddie Hearn defended his ability to build fighters, particularly pointing to Anthony Joshua as one of the greatest success stories of his career. He rejected Oscar de la Hoya's earlier criticism and emphasized that Joshua, under his guidance, became one of the biggest stars in boxing. Hearn said that when he heard criticism about his ability to build a fighter, followed by comments about AJ, he could not believe it. He suggested that Joshua was probably one of the best developed fighters of his generation and one of the biggest stars in the sport. Eddie Hearn continued his remarks by expressing some concern for Oscar de la Hoya while maintaining a critical tone. He suggested that de la Hoya was dealing with personal difficulties behind the scenes and said he hoped he was doing okay. Hearn further criticized de la Hoya, acknowledging that he was trying to revive his brand and image, but pointing out the struggles Golden Boy Promotions was facing. He suggested that de la Hoya was putting on a brave face to cover the difficulties within his promotion. Despite their rivalry, Hearn still expressed concern for him.
Because when you're finished in the game, you have to try and do something to kind of resurrect the brand and the image. So although all of his fighters are leaving him, and they're all publicly saying, you owe me money. You know, Canelo Alvarez, you stole my money. Devin Haney, you owe me money. All these fighters, you never hear a Matchroom fighter coming out saying, Eddie Hearn, you owe me money, or suing me. So Golden Boy are really struggling, and I like what he's doing because he's kind of like trying to put smoke and mirrors, so people don't realise how Golden Boy are. But, you know, he's hurting deep inside, and
The promoters continued their war of words. The British Boxing Board of Control issued a 28-day suspension to Anthony Joshua. This is standard protocol for fighters who suffer a technical knockout or knockout loss. The suspension was put in place to ensure Joshua's health and safety following such a tough fight. Eddie Hearn reflected on the challenges Joshua faced during his defeat but also highlighted some positive aspects of his performance. Although Joshua had a rough start, Hearn admired his resilience and determination. He noted that Joshua refused to quit even when things were going badly.
Defeat, but you know, at this point you have to try and take any positives you can, and it's difficult because the start was disastrous, and the only positives I can take is the unbelievable heart and guts and nuts that...
I believe Joshua showed tremendous fighting spirit throughout the bout. Even when his legs were shaky, Joshua continued throwing heavy punches and searching for a way back into the fight. Despite the mistakes and difficulties, Hearn said Joshua came close to turning things around, particularly during the 4th and 5th rounds.
Times I've heard over the years of fighters say, you know, I will rather get knocked out than try and survive or lose on points. I will go out on my shield. He went out on his shield. Even when he didn't have his legs, he was trying to land the right hand and he was trying to find a way back in the fight. And remarkably, as bad as he performed tonight, or as many as mistakes that he made, he still could have won the fight. You know, 4th round he hurt Dubois, 5th round Dubois' legs buckled, and at that point I think this is going to be one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. But walked on to a crushing right hand, and unfortunately...
Joshua was knocked down 4 times before Dubois delivered the final blow in the 5th round to secure a knockout victory. The defeat marked Joshua's 4th career loss, adding to his previous defeats against Andy Ruiz Jr. and Alexander Usyk twice. Joshua's attempt to become a 3-time world champion and reclaim his position at the top of the heavyweight division came to a dramatic and unexpected end. After landing a major shot on Joshua, Dubois was asked about changing the pace of the fight. He confidently responded, "I'm a gladiator. I am a warrior to the end. I want to reach the top level of this sport and realize my potential." Despite the suspension, it was not expected to affect Joshua's immediate plans because he had no upcoming fight scheduled. Instead, he was expected to focus on recovering and rebuilding his career following the major setback. After his knockout loss to Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua found himself at a critical point in his career. Despite the defeat, Joshua made it clear that he was not considering retirement. Instead, his focus remained on seeking a rematch with Dubois. Eddie Hearn addressed the financial implications of Joshua potentially retiring, making it clear that while Joshua generates enormous revenue every time he fights, the overall financial impact on the business would not be as significant as some people might expect. Hearn emphasized that Joshua's star power is what makes his events so valuable, but the business would remain strong even without him in the ring.
And AJ fighting, you know, obviously every time he fights financially we do well, but compared to the sort of group revenue, and particularly to boxing's entire revenue, it's quite a small portion really, but it's the nature and the stature of the man and the profile of the events. So yeah, I mean, financially it doesn't make a difference.
Joshua's promoter, Eddie Hearn, confirmed that the former 2-time world heavyweight champion was determined to return to the ring, with Dubois likely to be his next opponent. Joshua's resilience has always been a defining trait of his career. He previously bounced back from defeat by beating Andy Ruiz Jr. in their rematch. While discussing Joshua's future, Eddie Hearn acknowledged that Joshua's potential retirement would have a significant personal impact on him and on British boxing fans. He emphasized the incredible journey they had been on together and how much Joshua had meant to British boxing. Hearn said that, personally, Joshua's retirement would make a huge difference because they had shared an incredible journey. He also believed it would make a major difference to British fight fans. Hearn further assured fans that Joshua was not retiring anytime soon. However, he warned that the next step in Joshua's career would be crucial, suggesting that the decisions made now could heavily influence the remainder of his time in the sport. He said Joshua was definitely not retiring yet and that fans were likely to see him compete for at least another year, possibly in 2 or 3 more fights. However, he stressed that the next decision would be extremely important. A rematch with Dubois could be a defining moment for Joshua, and Hearn expressed confidence that Joshua could make adjustments and challenge Dubois again. Although there was no immediate rematch clause, discussions were ongoing, and it appeared likely that Joshua would pursue the fight in an attempt to regain his position in the heavyweight division. Dave Caldwell provided an in-depth analysis of the fight, focusing on a pivotal moment when Joshua landed a solid right hand that appeared to hurt Daniel Dubois. Caldwell pointed out that Joshua, in his eagerness to capitalize on the moment, rushed forward without thinking about the counterattack. As a result, Joshua was caught with a shot. Instead of retreating or becoming more cautious, he attempted an uppercut from the wrong distance. Caldwell emphasized that this mistake left Joshua vulnerable to the knockout punch.
What happened? He catches him with a good right hand, wobbles Dubois, runs onto him, doesn't think about what's coming back, gets clipped with a shot first, doesn't react to that and think, oh, I best be smart here. He still throws this uppercut from the wrong distance.
Caldwell continued by acknowledging Joshua's determination despite the circumstances. He highlighted Joshua's mindset at that moment, explaining that Joshua knew he was losing and decided to take a gamble in the hope of creating an opportunity for Caldwell. Joshua's willingness to keep fighting even after taking such a brutal shot demonstrated his warrior spirit and earned him immense respect. He said Joshua went for it and took the gamble.
He gambled, he went for it. He thought, I'm losing here. Here's the opportunity. I might not get another opportunity. Go for it. He went for it. Fair play to him. He went out on his shield. He tried, and when he got poleaxed, he still tried to get up. Can't knock him. He still tried. He got hit with a hell of a shot. Walked onto it, and still tried to get up. You know, got nothing but respect for him for that.
Caldwell expressed doubts about the wisdom of an immediate rematch for Anthony Joshua following his defeat. He acknowledged that Joshua had successfully pursued an immediate rematch against Andy Ruiz Jr., but argued that the situation with Dubois was different. In the fight against Ruiz, Joshua had the physical advantages. However, he made the critical mistake of walking in carelessly after hurting Ruiz and was caught with a shot that completely changed the fight. Caldwell said he did not believe an immediate rematch was the right move. He explained that Joshua does not have the same physical advantages over Daniel Dubois as he had over Andy Ruiz Jr. Caldwell also pointed out that Dubois is still young and continues to improve as a fighter with every fight, even after experiencing defeat.
With Dubois, he's not got the physical advantages as such. You know, he's not. Is he stronger? No. Does he have the better jab? No. You know, also we've got to understand that in Dubois is a fighter that just seems to be growing with each fight, growing with each victory. He's even grown from his couple of defeats, but he's growing as a fighter. He's very, very young, and he's got a lot of growth left.
Dave Caldwell discussed Anthony Joshua's mindset following his recent defeat, noting that Joshua appeared unfazed by the loss and showed no fear about the way he was beaten. However, Caldwell suggested that if Joshua were caught early by Dubois's jab in a rematch, it could trigger hesitation or doubts that could make an immediate rematch a risky decision for Joshua at this stage. Caldwell said Joshua appeared to have absolutely no fear of losing and did not seem to care about the way he was beaten. However, he believed there could still be psychological effects beneath the surface. He suggested that if Joshua went straight into a rematch and was immediately hit by Dubois's jab, it could create doubt and hesitation. Caldwell concluded that an immediate rematch was probably not the best idea. At T34, Joshua is fully aware of the stakes. Critics have suggested that retirement might be a sensible option after his recent setbacks, but Joshua has repeatedly stated that he still has more to give to the sport. His loss to Dubois, which saw him knocked down multiple times, was a difficult one, but Joshua remains focused on redemption. Don Charles, while discussing the possibility of a rematch between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois, acknowledged the seriousness of the challenge. However, he emphasized that Joshua remains a formidable fighter despite his recent loss. Charles compared Joshua to a wounded animal, describing a wounded fighter as potentially the most dangerous.
Rematch. It's a serious fight. Anthony Joshua is a serious fighter. Yeah, so a wounded animal is like it's most dangerous. So if there was a rematch, listen, you got to treat it as round one again.